record this session, so know that that's happening right now. And we welcome you to this panel to be able to have a little chat and Q&A with a selected group of Holy Cross brothers. Again, thank you for your time. We are conducting this as a Zoom collaborative or a Zoom meeting. So anybody who's been using Zoom in the last year, you're very familiar with it. As we move along here, we're going to open the floor for Q&A after some introductions. Okay, so welcome. So joining us on this panel today, this illustrious panel of Holy Cross brothers, we have Brother Stephen Lamendola, Brother George Schmitz, Brother Roy Smith, Brother Bob Livernois, Brother Larry Atkinson, and Brother Roberto Jimenez. So we thank the brothers for giving their time and preparation for today. And what I'll do is I'm going to begin asking questions. And the first thing I'm going to ask those panel brothers to do is to introduce themselves, to let the audience know who you are, what you're doing today, and then a little bit about your lifetime as a brother. And brothers as well, I'm going to come back to a follow-up question to that. So as you're thinking about those answers, I'm going to ask you to tell us more about and share with us a little bit about your own discernment and the saying yes to God's call to serve in religious life as a Holy Cross brother. So do we have a volunteer to get us started? We'd like to hear from all of you. So
I'll go first.
Yep, there we go. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Bob.
Okay. Well, I entered the community in 1969 after graduating from high school. And my journey started, I didn't have Holy Cross brothers as teachers, but I went to a school called Holy Cross High School in Marine City, Michigan. And there I had sisters, Immaculate Heart of Mary sisters, who were very familiar with the brothers, both at Catholic Central in Monroe and in Akron and in Lakewood, Ohio. And the minute I mentioned something about Holy Cross brothers, there was a vocation director at my door within 2 weeks. The nuns worked very quickly to get someone there, and it wasn't long before I was entering the congregation. My journey was a little bit different than everyone else's, I think, in that when everybody else, 10 years after I entered, when everybody else was taking final vows, I was like, oh, not so fast. And I didn't renew vows for 4 years. But was off living on my own. And the point of that was mainly, I felt before I could take vows, I needed to live like an adult rather than right out of high school. So I found out what the vow of poverty was when I had to make a car payment and apartment rental and all those sorts of things. Anyway, after 4 years of living on my own, I re-entered the community, took final vows in 87, and then have worked at a number of different institutions in the Midwest Province ever since. My most recent position right now is I am Director of Mission Integration and Pastoral Care at our Holy Cross Village right at Notre Dame. And that's working with senior citizens, which is very different from working with high school sophomores. Anyway, that's my little story.
Fantastic, Brother Bob. Thank you. And for those that don't know, Brother Bob also serves on the board of governors for the Holy Cross Institute. So thank you for that, brother. Okay, who's next?
I'll go next. My name is Brother Roberto Jimenez. I graduated from St. Ed's as senior year came to be. Romart began working with me, Brother Romart Bartel. Began working and helping me with my senior thesis at St. Ed's. So one of the things that, I asked him, what do you people do here? And we started talking, and somehow I decided to move in rather quick into the congregation. Yet he told me I had to wait because there was a lot of, I guess, psychological and all the good testing that comes with it. In the meantime, I went over to my fiance and told her, oh, by the way, I'm becoming a brother. So it was just one of those things that it was different. So that's how I came to the congregation through St. Edward's, because I did not even know what a brother was till I was at St. Ed's. Right now, I'm presently teaching at Cathedral High School. I teach religion for juniors and seniors. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Brother Roberto. Brother Roy? You're muted right now. Yep.
Yeah. Presently, I'm a Director of Development for the Midwest Province. However, most of my, well, let me go back to Cathedral. I'm a graduate of Cathedral where Roberto is, and that's where I met the Holy Cross Brothers. I had two blood brothers who went to Cathedral, and so I knew I wanted to follow them. And as I said, what I did not know, I was going to meet a group of men called the Brothers of Holy Cross, who really led me to say, I want to impact and influence students the way that I felt that they impacted and cared for me as an individual. And I knew I was going to be a teacher. My mother was a teacher, one of my sisters. When I graduated from St. Ed's, I've had 2 years at St. Joe High School teaching. And as I told people often, I learned the first year and taught the second. And my life went off into, and I became a social worker, worked at St. Charles for 12 years, worked at Boysville briefly, worked for 12 more years at Catholic Charities, South Bend, and school social worker at the Holy Trinity in Chicago. And then Brother Robert Fillmore talked me into getting into development work.
Fantastic, brother. Thank you as well for sharing a little bit about your journey. Significant part of your career in ministry has been in social work. And I think often many of us only associate the work of and the ministry of the brothers in education, but we know that there are many, many other ministries that you serve in. So thank you. Brother George.
Hello, I'm Brother George Schmitz at Notre Dame High School in West Haven, where I'm currently serving as the Director of Alumni Relations and Planned Giving. I'm an alumnus of this school. I taught here in the 70s, and I was here also in the 80s as the principal of the school. I've also been in administration. I was the provincial of the former Eastern Province of Brothers and served one term on the general administration. At one point in my life, I worked in Santiago, Chile at Colegio Andacoyo during the Pinochet dictatorship when we lost St. George College. And I returned here in 2014 to take up my current position. For 13 years, though, Brother Larry Atkinson and I were the staff members of the Leviticus Alternative Fund, a very exciting community development project by which we were operating a loan fund and lending money to nonprofits that were working with the poor.
Well, thank you, brother. And as long as I've been around, I feel like I know all of you well, and those are things that I did not know about you. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that. How about, that's probably a good segue to Brother Larry.
Yes, I was going to say there's a segue. I'm Brother Larry Atkinson and joined Holy Cross after high school. And I had no intention of doing that, but it was the influence of 12 years of Catholic education. And when I was a senior, suddenly the priest who was teaching religion talked about, there was a chapter or so on religious life, priests, brothers and sisters. And he mentioned brothers. And I think all of the images that I had of sisters and brothers and priests over the years suddenly kind of all came together. And after a period of a couple months in investigating, I decided to join and was accepted by Holy Cross. I went to St. Edward's University. It was a big thrill. I'd never been outside of New England before. I grew up in Massachusetts. And it was, we took the train down, and it was just the biggest adventure of my life until I got here. And I got here in the August heat and lived in a building with no air conditioning. So that was the first initial environmental shock. But I had wonderful 3 years here, begged the provincial to let me stay and work on something at St. Ed's, but spent the next years all in education. I had the great opportunity to teach both in the elementary schools and our high schools, and then eventually at St. Edward's University. So I don't have a favorite. I think each one of those areas is a favorite. And I did, other than that, I was a vocation director for the former Eastern Province for 6 years in between my two stints at St. Edward's, and had a wonderful 5 years working with George in community development. And that was my first time in working hands-on in social justice. You know, we had been talking about it, we had been learning more about it, but I had been teaching about it in high school religion, but this opportunity came up, and it was a great opportunity to balance my education and direct work with social justice. So I ended up at St. Edward's University and came down here to be the assistant of Brother Paul Ram, and the candidate program. And after 2 years, he moved on, and I did that between here and at Stonehill for the next 12 years. So that's, you know, working with college students by the time that I was of that age was a wonderful opportunity. So I'm very grateful for the experience in education and the opportunities that Holy Cross has given me for that.
Fantastic, brother. Thank you. And then last but not least, Brother Stephen.
Good day, everyone. My name is Brother Stephen. I am presently at King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. King's College is one of the higher institutions sponsored by the Congregation of Holy Cross, United States Province of Priests and Brothers. I am presently in the education department and do a number of things, but one of the things that I enjoy doing most is being the director of student teachers. This is a position that really is the capstone of my ministry in Holy Cross, which has been always in education for now over 50 years. Like Brother Larry, I began in the middle school level, okay, and I've also been head of two schools in the province. I've taught in the secondary level, and for about 15 years concurrently, I also served under 5 provincials on the provincial council. And during some of those times, I served as the counselor for schools and had the wonderful privilege of working with a lot of the heads of schools and their particular boards.
Terrific. Thank you, Brother Stephen. And as somebody who came through the ranks as a lay leader in the former Eastern Province, Brother George and Brother Stephen, both very influential figures in my own formation and development. So I want the audience to begin thinking of some questions that you'd like to ask, but I'm going to start off with one. So throughout your years in ministry, share with us some of the resurrection moments that you've witnessed or experienced, right? We talk about, and it was spoken about earlier in our sessions, that the work that we do is a work of resurrection. And certainly our world is in need, desperate need currently of hope and life and to begin again. And so maybe if some of you could share some of those resurrection moments with the audience. Brother?
When I took over as vice president, I'm sorry, is it okay? When I took over as vice president for mission and leadership at Archbishop Hoban High School, Brother Ken Haters had done a great job of laying the foundation for our 10 core values at the school. And during the course of the next 5 years when I was in that position, we'd have retreats at the start of the year and then midway through the year and breakfast celebrations and things like that. And we would always have a number of prayer opportunities. And I would invite faculty members, not brothers, to talk about one of the topics, one of our 10 core values. And I was always moved and very impressed with the ability of our faculty there to talk about Holy Cross in their own lives and how it affected them. And that for me was a major resurrection moment each time, because I felt like God was really acting through these people as they shared what Holy Cross and what Hoban meant to them, or what Holy Cross meant to them through Archbishop Hoban High School. I felt like the faculty really got it, you know, and understood what it meant to be a Holy Cross school in the Holy Cross tradition. And knowing that eventually there will not be brothers there, but that doesn't mean that the school will not carry on in a tremendous way with the strong charism of the Brothers of Holy Cross.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, and in terms of that getting it, you know, it's very obvious in the prayers that came from the faculty, staff, and students for the soon-to-be published Holy Cross Prayer Book. So for those that don't know, we're in the process of publishing a Holy Cross Prayer Book with submissions from students and faculty staff around the country, but it's very obvious that they get it there, brother. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Who else would like to share?
Marco, when I was a counselor of a particular session I had with a family, was the parents, and then the children were like 16, I think 12, 10. And we were in a session, and the 16-year-old boy began to cry. And so he left the room. And so the father turned to me and he said, "What if I can't be who he wants me to be? I'm not sure I can be who he wants me to be or who he needs me to be." And this was a humbling moment for me. And that people would trust me with some of their deep feelings, and particularly in a family that things can become enmeshed. And I told the father, I said, "You can be who he needs, you know, trust yourself." And it was like, my able to say to him, "I see that you can handle, I see the good in you." And it was just a special moment for me in as being an instrument, I hope, of the Lord's in counseling.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful Holy Cross example, right? I mean, from the very beginning, this is what the brothers did. And they went out and they worked in parishes and schools and answered whatever those needs were, sometimes even untrained, right? Very often untrained. And yet they were there. They lit their heart. I see the hearts of those that they were working with, and they loved them. They showed great compassion to them and supported them. So thank you. Brother Stephen, you've unmuted.
Okay. As I mentioned, I've had the privilege of educating students on all levels and also working with parents, as the case may be. And I think as many of the educators present can relate to, sometimes you just don't know if you're making an impression or if the students are listening to you or if you're making any difference. So it always is very gratifying in a resurrection moment when a student comes by or a parent mentions, okay, with it, especially a student who will say, "Gee, brother, you know, when you said such and such, or when you did such and such in the class, that was really a very important moment for me." And I have to be honest, 9 times out of 10, I don't even remember doing what the student is relating to, all right, with it, or even when the parents come and saying, you know, how you have helped to really form my child. So those things to me have always been very special. And in my role as working with young candidates to be the student teachers, I say to them, those particular moments are worth $1 million, and they really kind of propel you to continue doing what you're doing.
Fantastic. Thank you, brother. And I put in the chat box, hopefully everybody saw that, as audience members, if you have any questions, please drop those in chat. Or if you'd like to ask the question yourself, just request that through chat. And I think...
Yeah, I have a thing I think I could share with any teacher. It's the transformation that you see in students from when they come in, no matter what age it is or what level, to watching them walk across stage at graduation. And sometimes you've worked with one or more of those students, and sometimes you just have known them. But to watch the transformation that takes place, and since we've had the right vocabulary for it, I look at the Holy Cross education, you know, being information, formation, and transformation. And I think that as teachers, we do our information and formation. We work hard at that. And I always believe that we leave it up to God to do the transformation, but to be able to witness that, to see the growth in the students. Sometimes they might have had very difficult early teen years. And other times you just watch their progression from good to better to best. And I think each of us, having been in education for many years, have seen those students. The other area is most recently in working with the Holy Cross Institute during the past convocations and helping to select and prepare the students to give their talks at one of the banquets. And I found that, you know, first of all, when I ask a student to do that, they very anxious and very happy, very pleased to be invited and want to do that. And in working with them, I just tell them to give their thoughts about how Holy Cross has influenced them, you know, through the high school and through college, and to hear what they have to say about Holy Cross in their own words, and to thank the teachers for what they have done. To me, that's the reward for every teacher who they've had, and particularly for the high school and the universities. So there are the resurrection moments every year at graduation, and it's nice to hear them.
Beautiful. Yeah, really beautiful. And those words, information, formation, and transformation, are things that we hear a lot. And those of you that are in this session that are new to Holy Cross, you know, hopefully those are things that you will do a deeper dive to understand. Well, what does that really mean, right? Educating the mind and the formation of the heart for the transformation of the world, right? Anybody else, any of the other brothers want to chime in on that question? So, so let me go ahead and ask the next question then. And I think that, so each of you reflected, as I look at the roster, first of all, let me say this, as I look at the roster of the 667 people who are registered for this year's Holy Cross Institute Convocation, I hope that you as brothers find that just incredibly edifying. Upwards of 95% of those people are lay people. They're lay people and students attending Holy Cross schools, and their hunger and their fire and their passion for this mission is deep. But I also think as we look towards the future of Holy Cross, I wonder if you might reflect for a moment on that future, the way that you see it, and share with us a little bit as well. You know, each of your own vocation stories involved the personal direct witness of people that you encountered while in school. How can we as lay educators today help to promote vocations? So not only help to promote Holy Cross, but vocations and Holy Cross as well. So sort of an open-ended, multi-part question there, but let's talk a little bit about the future. That's what we really want to get at a little bit.
I think one of the things that we need to look at the future is just presence more than anything else. Once we present with the people that we minister to, the vocation is fostered through that. Being ourselves, people looking at who we are, and not so much talking about it, but just acting on it. And actions speak louder than words. I think as a brother, most of the things that I do, and I'll give an example of this. When I go to the athletic events that we have at Cathedral, kids just appreciate being there. It's just something that to them is just like a huge thing that's going on when I'm just there at the game for nothing. So to me, it's just the way we're going to foster a lot of vocations or even the future of Holy Cross is just being present to people, and so people can see who we are. It's an art that we have lost in the classroom because not many of us are in schools anymore. So the only way we are going to continue with this is through lay people who see who we are and appreciate our charisma or our, everything that we do. Unless we really look at ourselves and say, who am I and how can I better the vocation of a brother through a school, I think that's going to make a difference, because there's not many of us around. And as time goes, if you look at it, Nick Perez, myself, and probably Chris Chiritos are the youngest in the US, and that's not saying much. It's especially I'm older than the other two, and it's just, where do we go with this? We don't have those numbers that we once had. So I think our job is to really work with people and give people the sense of what Holy Cross is and how we as brothers can come to a sense of life and I guess spirituality within our own lives. Sorry to be confusing, but that's just what it is. So
I think you're alluding, as you stated very well, Brother Roberto, thank you, that it's the personal witness, right? It's the personal witness. I can tell you it's the personal witness of the brothers that attracted me as a youngster was discerning my future, my vocation, and one thought was religious life. And it was because of the men, the teachers that I had at Bishop McNamara, the Holy Cross Brothers. I was fortunate enough as well to have a Holy Cross priest there, Father Larry Yergi, very influential in my own life and development. But ultimately, it led me to an awakening and an awareness that my vocation is that as a Catholic educator, as a Holy Cross Catholic educator. So in the absence of that, of your physical presence, what can we do? What can we as lay people do to continue to grow Holy Cross and to perpetuate this legacy and prayerfully even attract young people to religious life?
I'd like to begin, Marco, if I may. Okay, with it. I'm here in the Diocese of Scranton, and I grew up in the Diocese of Brooklyn in New York. And when I was growing up in the Brooklyn Diocese, we had at its peak around 500 brothers of various different communities. Most of the brothers in the Diocese of Brooklyn were involved in education, and therefore their identity was closely related to the schools. We know that the situation has changed dramatically. And here in the Diocese of Scranton, to which I am part of, okay, with it, I think I'm maybe two brothers in the entire diocese. So when I first came, and this was something that was organized by the Diocese of Scranton, they realized the fact that the teachers, the lay teachers in the schools, were on the forefront of working with the young people on whatever particular level. And we had a day in which, there was panel presentation and information session on various ministries in the church. And it was really kind of interesting, with it, that for a lot of people in this particular diocese, they never heard of or never met a brother. So it was really quite interesting for me to be able to share the brother's vocation. So when I look at our lay colleagues, with it in our schools, I think that they need to realize and appreciate the brother's vocation so that they can speak about it. And if, let's say, the present brothers who are around can help out in that way, I think we need to do all that we can. Many of our young people will not have the experience of being in close contact or having a brother as a teacher. So we need to have kind of an intermediary who can speak about the brother's vocation and its value in the church today. So that's my little contribution for that.
That's great, brother. Thank you. So there's a need to be intentional, right? There's an intentionality about this. Brother George?
The future of the congregation is really what we see today. We see tremendous growth in the congregation in Asia and in Africa. Picture recently circulated around the congregation was just brothers taking final vows and first vows in Ghana. And we see that consistently throughout East Africa, Ghana, Bangladesh, and India, not to that great extent in South America. And then the diminishment here in North America. But I think that across the world, what Holy Cross has done well, particularly here in North America, is to prepare for the future that is today. And by that, I mean the steps that we took going back to the late 70s and the early 80s, and I'm talking specifically about education, to move from boards of advisors to boards of directors, to hand over policymaking authority to the lay people. And then on top of that, to working very, very closely through the offices that we had, the joint office of the Midwest and the Eastern Province, the round table, or the table, what they call the table here in the Southwest Province, and now through Holy Cross Institute, to really provide leadership and training for the lay leaders of our schools and the teachers of our schools, so that they grasp the charism of the congregation. And from my perspective, it's going back now about 20 years, as when I was the provincial, of going around the schools and feeling very comfortable and going to a school where there might be one or two or even no brothers, but yet having the sense that this is a Holy Cross school. And in some ways, it's more of a Holy Cross school than it was when it was all brothers in leadership and in teaching. And that is to the great credit of our predecessors, who saw what the future was going to look like and took those steps, and to the lay people who stepped forward and said, yes, I want to be part of this, and I want to be part of it to the extent that I understand the charism, and I'm going to be one of the perpetuators of the charism.
Thank you, Brother George. And Brother Roy, I think you wanted to chime in as well.
I would say that if you're teaching or whatever kind of ministry, and don't hesitate to suggest or ask a student or a person, have they or would they consider being a brother? And I was invited, and that's an important thing, I think. And even if the person says no, at least someone has thought of them in that respect. I think Holy Cross Institute is just an incredible vehicle, if you will, to continue, obviously, the spirit of Monroe Duchary. That is a gift, and I think we should use that gift in many ways. And George, said that some ways the schools are more Holy Cross now than we were there. You kind of just take it for granted and stuff, but we articulate and say specifically, this is what we're doing, this is what we're trying to do, and people have contributed a great deal. They buy into that, and that's, I think, it's very important. If the community is smaller, it still needs to carry the mission and pass that on. And I just think that's how things will progress, even if it is a smaller congregation. But there are points of growth, as George pointed out, that are very important.
And thank you, Brother Roy. Certainly not a commercial necessarily for the Holy Cross Institute, but I do think it's important for folks to know that the Institute is working on a few initiatives. One is what we're calling a Holy Cross Charism initiative, which would help to train, onboard and train, and then support Holy Cross educators around the world in a community and a cohort model of learning and support. And then as well, there's a leadership training program that is underway. It references Father Moreau's statement that says that education is the art of helping or leading young people to completeness. And we call it the Complete Leader Program because we think that today's Holy Cross leaders, who will be in the future further and further removed from the personal witness, the direct contact with Holy Cross, in order for them to be able to continue that legacy and celebrate that legacy, steward that legacy, have to be properly formed in that as leaders. And so those things are underway, and I'm certainly very honored to be a part of those. I also, think it's worthwhile to say that, I'm reminded that Holy Cross was founded in response to the needs of the times, right, 200 years ago. And there are charisms that were not responsive. Maybe they were responsive to a particular need at a particular time, but there's a universality and a timelessness about this Holy Cross charism that is so beautifully carried out through the students that we see and that we teach, right? If there were, and that leads me to the next question, if there were one thing that you hoped that every graduate of a Holy Cross school walked away with, one message that they would bring to the world. We have 110,000 students attending our schools around the world. Imagine 110,000 people. What one common message or theme would you want them to bring to the world?
I would like to suggest what Moreau talked about when he said the mind will not be cultivated at the expense of the heart. I think that as educators, we get sometimes really involved in how important it is to teach our physics lesson for the day, or our chemistry lab goes well, or our psychology class is what we want it to be. And we don't realize that we're sitting before or standing before 25 students who have lots of other concerns. And I think that by reaching out to them before and after class, and even during class, to be aware, to let them know that we care about them more than just our subject matter, I think that makes a difference. And I really believe that if we work with that, we will be giving them information which will form them and then transform them. And therefore, we need to, above all things, educate their hearts so that they're out doing the social justice actions that we expect and our world is so desperately in need of these days. And that's my 3 cents. Thanks.
I also think that we need to get the student where they're at and bring the best of who they are, and not just try to mold them into something that we try to create. At least that's why I look at Holy Cross. We don't mold kids to be something. We mold them to be themselves. And that's part of Margot's charism. Just look at the kid and understand that they have their own unique life and way of being. And my job is to make the best of that. Make them understand that they are beautiful people within, and just working with their gifts and their talents, and not just making things like, oh, this is what you need to be. I think that's one of the things that the congregation can bring about.
I would say, I have a quote recently that I've used. It says, "Don't get in the way of God making you great. Don't get in the way of God making you great." And I would say, let each person, each student know that he or she is important.
And I would use one of my favorite quotes, the competence to see and the courage to act. And I would hope that in addition to understanding the hearts and the minds, I think those two things are important. But if students know that they've been given the competence now, through careful education, and if we can give them the courage to act in right ways and, bring about that better time that Monroe hoped, that's what I hope that they see.
One time when Brother Tom Zekin and I were visiting a school, when Tom was the director of the Holy Cross Educational Ministries office, we were meeting with a group of students, and we asked them what's so great about this school. And one young woman said, "At this school, you get respect when you come in the door. It doesn't matter whether you're a good athlete. It doesn't matter if you're good in the arts. It doesn't matter if you're super intelligent. You get respect for who you are." And we really hope that that's what they'll take with them when they leave the school. The respect that we gave them, the respect that they found in this Holy Cross institution, this Holy Cross school, is something that will become part of their lives. And it's something that we need right now, respect for one another.
On Zoom. Yes.
Brother George, thank you. And Brother Stephen.
I think it was said of Father Dujarrier that he was a man who went about doing good. And I would hope that our graduates will also go about and doing good in whatever chosen vocation that they end up with.
Profound. So we do have a couple of minutes left. I wondered if there are any questions from our audience participants. There's over 60 of you here. We thank you for that. Anybody have a question for the brothers or a comment? And you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask that if you'd like.
Oh, you can see my room.
Good thing you made your bed.
I just wanted to thank the panel. I didn't know my picture was going to be up there in front of the panel. But I think the most important thing for us is to remember how we influenced all these people that we came in contact with. And that through us, that Christ, they can see us, hopefully, see Christ in us, and how that we influence their lives. I know I had the Ursuline sisters, and they were magnificent. It was their life and the way they lived it is what influenced me. And I just through that realized how we influence other people around us. And they asked me to join the diocesan priesthood, and I said, absolutely not. It's just all the service and the life that they led that wanted me to join the religious life. And I accidentally read a book with an advertisement for Holy Cross. And the first religious of Holy Cross I met was when I went to Watertown and a brother opened the door. But that's what I would like to have mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Anybody else? I have a question here coming in from Jessie Guerrero. She says, what do you think Father Desjardins would say to the Holy Cross brothers who are ministering in the world today, 200 years later, right? What would Father Desjardins say 200 years later to those that are ministering around the world?
Jesse, you should know this answer from your religion class at Archbishop Hoban, first off. But I believe he would say, while there is time, let us do good. Do good about everything that you do each day. Be a good example, and because you don't know the effect that you have on people every day in every way.
Don't do anything stupid. Okay.
So that's a theme that we've heard from Matt, right? This is what we've heard. Just go about doing good. Do all the good you can with the time that you have left, and bring hope to the world. Be men and women with hope to bring. One last question that comes in here from Dan Quinn. Dan says, what qualities and virtues, perhaps from Christian education, best represent a Holy Cross educator in your mind? And we'll close on this question. So lots of educators on this call. Again, I'll repeat it. What qualities or virtues, perhaps from Christian education, best represent a Holy Cross educator in your mind?
I would like to say adaptability, that we meet the students where they are at.
Excellent, Brother Stephen. Thank you. Brother
I
George?
think I resonate with Moreau's one word, zeal. When I first entered the congregation, we actually had a constitution dedicated to zeal. But when I look around at our schools and I see people, I can look right out at our track and see coaches out there in the rain with kids, and they've been teaching during the day. And I'm always edified by the amount of zeal, that desire to make God known, loved, and served that I see in the people around me every day who are in the classroom, particularly in this past year.
Thank you, brother.
One of the things that we look at is just understanding. Sometimes we have kids from different cultures. We need to understand where they're coming from just to appreciate who they are. And unless we have that, we lose a lot of who we are as a congregation. So just understanding of where the student is at.
Thank you, brother. Brother Bob, Brother Roy, Brother Larry?
Well,
I would say that in Moreau's Christian education, that pay attention and care for those students who are most in need. It's as we all know, it's very easy to work with very intelligent, bright, animated students. But probably our best efforts are with those in need, no matter what type of need that is.
I would say that the ability that you make people feel at home, family inclusiveness, that is a quality that I think is critical for teachers or whoever in a situation, that people feel like they belong here, wherever that is.
Sense of belongingness.
Yeah, I think maybe to wrap this up would be the whole idea of hope. During this pandemic, in particular, all the challenges that we face, if we don't have hope for the future, then we are in real trouble. And that's kind of how we started this whole discussion today. And I think hope is a big one that I would take, that and the family values that we carry on in all of our schools.
Amen. Well, this has been really just a great joy for me, and an honor to host all of you brothers. Thank you, and thank you to the more than 60 other people who joined in on this session to hear your words of wisdom, to learn from your life experiences, and to see, most importantly, your personal witness. I don't say it lightly. I know it's a trite phrase at times, but it is your shoulders that we stand on. And it is your legacy and your leadership that must be continued. And you have our word that we will. So thank you. And I will close with this, as I love to close all of our webinars and other sessions that we do. Let's remain disciples with hope to bring. And God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Thank you. Say bye to the people. Say bye, Dean.